Hi, tonight I'm giving you a demonstration on taping sheetrock. We're currently in the new guest room at my house. This room has actually been several different things. If you look up in this corner here, you can see some exposed framing. There used to be a wall here which made a walk-in closet for the master bedroom, which is behind this wall. You got a little bit of a drop ceiling here for some reason. When I purchased the home, this was a tiny bedroom that went from here, where you can see on this drop ceiling, forward to about here, where I'm standing. It was like an 8x8 bedroom. I think it was probably put in for a part-time parent, divorcee parent type situation. Anyway, it's always been very narrow. It's hard to tell on the camera, but between this exposed framing that you see here and the outside wall of the house is probably just seven feet. So I put up this new wall. I tore the old one out and I bumped this wall out into the living room a good 2.5 feet, which actually makes this a very nice space. But that leaves us with a whole bunch of unfinished sheetrock. I put the sheetrock up just the other day. It's probably a little bit hard to tell with the lighting, but when I hang the sheetrock in a residential situation, I always run my seams horizontally. You can run them vertically if you really want to for some reason, but there's always the chance that you will end up with a vertical seam on a stud that will twist as it's drying. And if that stud twists and you have a vertical seam going for an 8-foot wall span, you'll end up popping the tape and you'll end up with the seam that's exposed. Much less chance of that if you run horizontally, because your sheetrock spans several studs when it's nailed off on the wall. I also stagger my butt joints, which is the unfinished end of the sheetrock. On this horizontal seam, the sheetrock is tapered in to accept paper tape or mesh tape and embedding compound. On the butt joints, it's not tapered at all. It's just a half-inch sheetrock butted up together. These are kind of difficult to finish in a way that you can't see them, so I stagger them. I've got one here and one here. This wall is just slightly over 8 feet long, and I could have ended up with these butt joints in a line, which would end up giving me the same problem as one large vertical line on landing on the same stud. So by staggering my joints, not only will I end up without a long joint here that you may be able to see if the tape and bed isn't just perfectly, but I minimize the risk of having a problem if the stud inside the wall twists as it dries. So that's how I've got it all laid out. This particular wall I nailed off. Sometimes I use screws, sometimes I use nails, just depends on my mood. Nails are obviously much faster. Screws can hold better than nails, but you also have to be careful that you don't overdrive them. They're also a little bit more difficult to finish. When you nail sheetrock, you push the nail below the surface of the sheetrock, leaving an indentation of your hammerhead, which accepts mud very easily. If you just run a sheetrock screw through, you end up with a very small hole that's not finished on the sides, kind of tears the tape, and you have to put more compound on the wall to cover up that screw indentation. So that's how the wall's laid out. What I'm doing now is I'm just checking to make sure that all of these nails are still below the surface. I insulated this wall. It's going to be a guest bedroom, and it's right off of my family room, my living room. So I wanted to try to cut down on sound transference. God, I can't talk. Sound transference between the two rooms. So I insulated the interior wall with R13 insulation with no vapor barrier. No vapor barrier because if we end up somehow with a vapor problem in this room, we don't want to lock it in this room. We want it to be able to go throughout the house. So we don't end up with a mold problem or anything like that in here. That's the reason for no vapor barrier. And I'm going to go through and double check all these nails, because when you nail sheetrock off to a wall that's been insulated, the insulation will tend to push the sheetrock out. And this has sat for about 12 hours now, so the sheetrock has been able to compress the insulation in the wall. And when it does that, sometimes it will loosen up, so you may have to re-drive a few nails. So I'm just kind of checking everything out, making sure that I don't have anything that's going to snag my taping knife, because it will really tick me off if I'm running mud in here and have to stop and pound in a nail. That one right there might be a problem, and what I'll do, I'll put a big circle around it with my pencil so that I remember that that was the one that was a problem, or could have been a problem. Otherwise, everything looks pretty good. So that's the general layout of the room, the wall that I'm going to mud, and next clip will be the tools that I'm going to use and the product that I'm going to put on the wall.